I hardly ever get the pleasure to be able to interview someone that has your level of expertise in the media.
Okay, yeah.
I just, so now...
Please, I don't believe that. I'm sure you're talking to people like Omar, who's on CTV,
yes.
and all those people. I mean, you know, I went to grad school with him.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I was watching him on television last night. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh, there's Omar. I was taking pictures of him on TV and sending them to all our friends. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so.
But you started not in this industry. Talk to me a little bit about where you were headed first before you even decided to go into media.
Right. Well, I started out as an investment banker. I started out in banking. I had typical Indian parents who really wanted me to be doctors because they were. And, you know, it's a typical Indian story. I think that because I wanted my parents to feel that they were getting their money's worth from what they paid for in college. And they wanted me to, you know, obviously I wanted them to feel okay with my life. So I went into banking and realized quickly that wasn't for me. And then by a very random series of events, I ended up going into media. I basically, I ended up working for this man who was the executive producer of a bunch of different shows on music and music television. And I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And the fact that I sort of fell into fashion and retail was also a complete, it was just by chance and random, and I'm someone that takes risks. I think that's just who I was. You know, when I was 7, maybe I was a little bit older, maybe I was 8 or 9, we had this house that the roof sort of like jetted over the pool, and if you were careful, you could dive off the roof into the pool. And I would do that all the time. And that's really scary for an 8-year-old to just go up to the roof and dive in. I mean, you could imagine all the adults around me are like, this kid's crazy. Yes. What's going on here? But that's just who I was. I was always this person who took a lot of risks. And I think that's what the hardest part about this was for my parents and, you know, really the community around me. And I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There isn't a huge Indian community there. It's getting bigger now with Intel and a lot of these,
yes.
you know, Indian engineers that are coming through there. But when I went there, you know, we moved to Albuquerque in, you know, the late 70s, early 80s, and there wasn't a huge community there. And I think to try and embrace risk, our community doesn't, that's not by nature stuff that we okay with. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think immigrants in general, they come to this country, they want to stay safe, they want to make decisions that will inevitably, you know, just have a safe, nice, normal life.
Yes.
And every parent wants that for
yes.
their kids, but I think for me it was just them dealing with my sort of riskiness of everything. Mm-hmm. And you're right, in terms of broadcast news, at the time, there weren't very many Indians on air. There was Uma Pemaraju, who was one of the first Indian women to be on air, and she's at Fox News, and I got a chance to talk to her, and you know, it's crazy. She really was a pioneer for all of us. But yeah, it was just being able to take that risk, I think.
And that risk has brought you where you are today.
Yes, it's that just say yes.
And just think, you're one of those people that epitomize that in what you do. You're a retail fashion expert. How on earth did that happen?
Oh gosh. Well, it really, I think that any woman, I feel, if you're sort of fashion savvy and like beauty when you're young, of course you read fashion magazines.
Absolutely.
And you have this dream of, okay, well, you know, I am a Shetland person, I'm maybe 5'2", there's no way I was ever gonna be a fashion model. But, you know, I'd read these magazines and think, oh, how much fun would it be to be a fashion writer in New York City? And, you know, it's almost this sort of self-manifestation. It was, again, a series of events. I became, you know, I was in J school and I really thought that I was gonna be a producer of rock documentaries. I have a lot of contacts in the music industry and sort of my roots are there. My former boss was from there, you know, produced a lot in the music industry. So I thought I was going to kind of follow in his footsteps, you know, career. He's like my career family. So yes. He's sort of like, I was going to follow in his footsteps that way. But it didn't turn out that way. I got really embraced by the fashion community. And again, it was sort of that series of just say yes. You know, I was asked to be a fashion editor and I went with it. I worked really hard. And then I was asked to be a stylist and I did it. And I worked really hard, realized that wasn't for me. You know, went over to Forbes, covered retail. And so I had that business side. Wow. And then, you know, Fox News asked me to come on air, and then, you know, CNBC, and then Bloomberg, and now MSNBC. It's just sort of a series of, you know, just sort of snowballed in that way.
You know, people from our community just don't get to do what you do. It's just...
They don't, but it's entirely possible now.
Yes.
I mean, yes, if you want to work really hard, you know, one thing that I've really learned is that whole saying anything is possible.
Yes.
It really is. It
Yes.
truly is. There are no real boundaries. I feel like, maybe 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, there was that boundary of, well, Indian people can't be on air. The communities don't embrace Indian people. Like they're more likely to embrace, what is the typical American. Mm-hmm. But now there's no typical American anymore. The typical American is such a melting pot.
Absolutely.
Everyone looks so different, and I think now that boundary has been crossed, and it's because, again, we're changing the global sphere. It's that global dynamic that's happening.
What's your point of difference? Why do you think you get to do what you get to do?
Why do I get to do what I do? I think I don't sleep. I think that's one thing I tell people. If you really want to, I really don't sleep. I don't think I've slept in probably 9 years. I know. I'm a vampire. No, I'm just kidding. But I really don't sleep very much. So I think that with opportunity that comes your way and this whole mentality of just say yes. You really have to be okay with the fact that you have to be doing everything at all hours. And so on average, I maybe get 5 hours of sleep a night. That's a good night. Yeah. I was doing this thing where I was taking naps during the night. That's really weird. Like you sleep from 10 to 2 and then work from 2 to 6 and then sleep from 6 to 8 and then you're up for the rest of the day. It's very weird to do that.
No, but I do the same thing. Usually when I'm under a lot of pressure and I've got major deadlines, which in our industry is like every single day, I work during the night.
Right.
Because no phone calls, no one's bothering me,
Oh,
and you've got to get through that.
Or you know what I love?
Yeah.
Taking cross-Atlantic trips, because I have a 5.5-hour window of where no one knows where I am. I could be across Pennsylvania, I could be on my way to LA. It's amazing.
We're here to celebrate the global achievements of our community across so many different industries as part of our prestige list.
Right.
And
so honored for you to have me here, though. Seriously, I was saying to you earlier, I can't even believe I'm here. I mean, really, it just doesn't even seem that I'm a kid from Albuquerque, New Mexico. It doesn't seem like you would, I don't know. It's like on paper, it doesn't really seem like it's me.
But you see, that's what really defines, authenticity in your success story, is because you don't sit there consistently patting yourself on the back. You're always looking for that next thing that you can, put your teeth into, that next thing that is gonna, take your passion to that next level, right? That journey of life.
Well, and I think that's it too. It's that word of passion. I mean, who gets to do what we get to do every single day?
Absolutely.
We have some of the greatest jobs in the world.
Yes.
How lucky are we?
Yes.
20 years ago, it seemed almost like a very far-fetched idea, and I think that's probably why my parents were like, kidding, you're going to go and be a journalist, you're going to be on air? That doesn't happen. There are Indian people on air now. I meet someone who maybe in college or right out of J school, wanting to be a broadcast news anchor, and that's absolutely possible. I mean, and I think you're right. It really, especially in the last 10 years, I feel like in the US and Canada, people really embrace this idea of South Asians being a part of not only the global culture, the social culture, but also like American and Canadian pop culture.
What would you say to people out there that, they look at our lives, right? And they see that 5 minutes of, 5 seconds even of fame.
Right.
And then there's like tons of time that we spend just really, really working, flipping hard in what we do.
Right.
Right? What would you say to those people who are coming out of school or that aspire to be you? What would you say to them is the key from your experiences that perhaps you didn't know going in, that you feel would really benefit them knowing before they go in, to make sure that they're making the right decision?
I would say that you have to be okay, and I know we just talked about this, but really like working extremely hard. I mean, you're really not sleeping.
Yeah.
You're not sleeping. You are saying yes to everything, but also making good decisions about what you're saying yes to. So there are a lot of things that come my way that people want me to be involved in or write about. I have a very clear idea of what I want to do. It's not, I stopped making the 5-year plan years ago because 5-year plans, it always changes in a year.
Absolutely.
And it's hilarious. What do they say? If you want to make God laugh, tell him your 5-year plan.
Yes.
So that's exactly what I stopped doing that. But it's more of, have a very clear vision of what you want to do. And if what you want to do is to be a political reporter, or a fashion reporter, or be on air as a broadcast news anchor, be very clear in that vision and execute it, and know what those steps you have to take in order to get there, and understand that those steps are probably going to take a lot of hard work. You're probably not going to sleep very much. You're probably going to make a lot of sacrifices. Everything from like not having that grilled cheese at lunch because you want to, you know, have good skin and stay pretty and thin, and you know, or you know, just not. Again, I always talk about not sleeping, but you have to be okay with that sacrifice. But yes, just say yes to everything. Have a very clear vision of what you want to do, and be totally cool with not sleeping.
What fabulous strategies, honestly.
Really?
And you don't know that until later on in life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, logical, strategy, clear mind. I'm telling you, I'm still learning.
Right.
I'm still learning.
And
I
think too, there were some naysayers as well. I think there were a lot of people that said, well, you can't do that. You know, whether it's friends or family, or you know, people in the industry. And I think if you have a very clear idea of what you want to do, and you know in your heart of hearts this is what you're going to do, you just execute it. And those naysayers, you know. Well, I love people that tell me no, because the best thing ever is when you can prove to them that, you know, you've succeeded, and it's just, you know, they're kind of eating, you know, what's the hanging their tail between their legs and walking away. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And have you ever succeeded? Sweetheart, I'm telling you, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Really, you inspire me. It's people like you that inspire me, and I just want to know what's going to happen next in your life. So keep in touch with me and keep letting me know about your fabulous
Well, I'm going to see you in New York anyway.
Wait.
Yes. Thanks for having me here. It's great.
My pleasure.